and it's a part of Delivery Hero, which is headquartered in Germany. And it's basically one of the biggest food delivery apps here in the Middle East. I am the product manager, managing the cart and checkout space on the food side of things. So we also do QC and food. So I am mainly on the food side of things. So why am I here talking to everybody about quality? So let me introduce you to my dark past. I started off as a QA engineer. I started off as a 6 years finding bugs, tested more than 15 different types of products, and worked with more than 15 squads in the UAE. That picture on the left is of myself at Expo. So at Talabat, I started off as a QA and then made a transition into product. And I was actually the QA for the growth squad, the pay squad, and the Expo. If there are people from Dubai, you would know at Expo there was a kitchen, so I was mainly the QA there, and that actually is the bike which the riders were using to deliver the orders, and I was testing it. Um, Fun fact: I fell down because it was not configured properly. So always test uh, every single product that you have, guys. So let's begin. Today we will be looking into two main topics: why we should care about quality and the continuous quality framework, which is a framework that we can use to proactively manage quality. So I think a lot of you guys are QAs here, but this is going to be super generic, so you can also take it back to your teams. So let's begin. Back in the days, in 2017, there was a saying which was called "move fast and break things and fail fast." Back in the days, this made a lot of sense, right? Because there was not a lot of competition, there was not a lot of similar products. So moving fast and failing fast worked. Breaking things also you could get away with. But I think in today's reality, which is of 2023, I don't think that breaking things, moving fast and failing fast, still a super MVP approach. But breaking things, I think this is something that I would have to disagree with. If users have a bad experience due to bugs or performance, they won't hesitate to abandon our products. So, bad experience means bad business for us. So, in the current market landscape, we know that users are super selective. They have so many delivery apps, so many different types of apps, not just delivery apps, but any concept that we can think of, there is an app for that. So, if we give our users a bad experience now, even if it's an MVP, I believe that it's going to be an easy decision for the users to switch and to go somewhere else. So this is more on like a product or a business perspective, right? Like bad experience, bad conversion, good experience, good conversions, and we can actually validate our MVP. But let's look at it a little bit from the engineering point of view. So those who have worked with mobile apps, you would know how tough a release process can look like. So basically, it begins with the release week starting. Then we run tests, we test our product, and then finally we find bugs, and then we keep going in the loop of building, releasing, finding bugs, and then going back in that loop. So these are not the kind of loops that we want to get stuck in, because being stuck in these loops means being stuck in a lot of product problems or quality problems. And why is that? That's because when we're building a product and we have something like a loop which keeps going into the loop of releasing, finding bugs, and having continuous delays, this does a lot of things on the other side, right? So learnings are delayed. We want to go fast to the market, validate, and come back fast with the learnings. So these learnings are delayed. I'm sure you guys have must have faced this at some point in your careers where, due to a bug, a launch gets delayed. So launches are delayed. This also increases app adoption lead time. So what this basically does is that the later you release, the later the app adoption happens, and then you need to wait the whole cycle so that you can release the feature that you want to release and go out with. We also know that app reviews increase the lead time in case of iOS, and then we need to go back to our stakeholders and disappoint them and tell them that, hey, we have an issue. We cannot go out. We need to, on the product side, there are so many things that we need to do when this happens. Revising the product roadmap, discussing trade-offs, telling our stakeholders that it's not going to happen, and then going in that cycle. So, so if you're building a product, I think there are a lot of things that come along and are really dependent on the quality of the product that you are delivering in a release cycle. So these are issues, but how do we address it? We can address these issues by proactively preventing them, because we know that when there are bug fixes, there is a whole different conversation, right? Like, is it really a bug? Is it for all the users? Should we really fix it? Should we really be prioritizing it? So there are so many of these questions that come when it comes to bug fixing, and then you will also have some developers tell you that they cannot reproduce it. So going rather than going in that cycle, we try and proactively prevent the issues. But how can we achieve this? So when I joined Talabat, the one of the first questions that I was asked by our CTO was that how would our product engineering teams be empowered to really release autonomously without relying on like a dedicated QA to test for them? Me entering in as a QA engineer, for me, this was I was firstly taken aback, and I was like, how do we do this? Because I have 6 years of experience, so I come with this already. But how do I empower a product manager? How do I empower a designer? How do I empower an engineer to test without needing me in the picture? So after thinking about it a little bit, the goal really was to ingrain quality in the natural thought process of the teams, because as a QA, like, we consider quality at every single stage. We think about this because that's our primary job, right? But in case of the rest of the team, they needed to ingrain quality in their natural thinking process, and consider it to be like just an instinctive thing as they go into building, designing, or even thinking about how to build this product. So I spoke to a few teams, my squads basically, and the first problem that I uncovered on their from their perspective was that they miss use cases, they miss dependencies, they miss the scope and edge cases when they reach production. So we all have faced production issues, I'm sure, and we're always talking about um, how quality cannot be like 100% ensured, but I really do believe that we can mitigate a lot of it before we reach the production stage, right? So the first problem was this. So what was the underlying problem there? The teams were missing product thinking, as they were either not thinking about the core jobs to be done, like what is that feature actually supposed to do, um, and the experience and the thinking came too late into the process, or everyone simply had a different understanding of like what is an acceptable MVP experience. So the developer would say like, yeah, this can go out because it's just a small bug, but the product manager would come back and say, no guys, this is like a total blocker for production, we cannot go. So it was either that the experience was misaligned, or they just didn't think that the user would do something like that. And that's normal, right? That's because they don't have that experience. They may not have that product thinking, which is so extensive um, to think about these edge cases. So for me, the the solution was to help them not dismiss dependencies, use cases, and basically help them think as I would if I was in that place. Um, the second problem is that we only found out issues during the release week, which meant that all squads were blocked, all the launches were blocked, and the lead time was increased. And here, really, the underlying problem was that the teams were not thoroughly testing what they built, or they were really testing in silos. So, in a company as big as Talabat, there can be a lot of things which are dependent on one another, and a lot of changes which are going in parallel. So, we have more than 15 teams, and then how do these 15 teams meet in the release week and make sure that none of these other squads are breaking each other's work? This was the second problem. Going into, I'm sorry, I just don't know why this is in this way. Give me a minute, everyone. Right. I think there is a little mix up with the slides, but that's not a problem. Let's go into the first step. Let me quickly fix that. All right, so I'm just going to talk you through. I'm just going to talk everyone through the these slides, right? I had one of my slides was missing, and total apologies. But let's begin. So let me actually switch this up a little bit. So what there were three problems that we were facing, right? The second problem was that we were unable to find out issues. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Let me, give me a second. All right, I hope everyone can still see my screen. I'm going to go and change this up a little bit. So the second problem was we found out issues only during the release week, which meant that all squads were blocked, all the launches were blocked, and the lead time for releasing that feature to production increased. So how does the work of these 20 squads work independently, but also together? And the third problem was that we couldn't catch our Monday release train. So every Monday we have like a release train which starts through. So we couldn't catch this release train because we discovered a blocker on the group testing day. And what is the group testing day? Let me take you through the three steps for the continuous quality framework. So this was basically the framework that I developed with these three problems in mind. The very first step was to brainstorm. And if you give me a second, I could actually show you guys the real. Okay. All right. All right, cool. So beginning, first problem was we were missing use cases, dependency scope, and edge cases when we reach production. So teams were missing this product thinking and the core jobs to be done. And this thinking was coming in too late. So what did I do to solve this problem? I introduced a process called brainstorming. Right now, this process is nothing but a 45-minute thinking session on the user job to be done. So as a QA, what do? We write test cases, right? And what is test cases? Test cases are just the core understanding of the jobs to be done and what are the things that the users will do. It's a list of those. But it was also a list of like what else can the user do. So for us, this is the first step in our thinking. But this was not the case for everyone because no one was really thinking about what they need to do um, when they go into development. So everyone gathered for 45 minutes and they started to think of what the user job to be done really is. So everyone in the team then understood why the users would use our product, how will they utilize it, and what more information do we need um, in order to make this product go live. The second problem was that we found out issues only during the release week, which meant that all squads were blocked, the launches were blocked, and our lead times were increased. So to solve that, we brought the entire team together to really test their product. So you're first thinking of your use cases together as a team, and then you're going into thinking about the use cases together and actually testing those use cases out once you do the development. So a dedicated time of like 1 hour is set for the team to test together. And here we took these brainstormed cases and used that to guide the session. And the expected outcome was that we had a continuous feedback loop between the team, and the entire team puts themselves in the user's shoes. So continuous feedback was equal to continuous quality enhancement. However, we had a third problem that during this Monday release train, even if we were group testing, even if we were brainstorming, we still had issues or like blocker issues, which we found on our group testing day. And this was not really possible to fix and catch this Monday train because we would do the group testing on like a Thursday or a Friday, and then Monday was the release day. So the underlying problem here was that the teams were really waiting for the group testing day to get feedback on the work and align on the experience that was being delivered. So to address that, I introduced the second step, which became the second step of the process, which was to pair test. And this was nothing but pairing with an engineer, and it didn't necessarily need a QA. It can be a designer, it can be a product manager, it can be anybody um, who wants to who wants to do who wants to get like an early feedback loop with the engineer. So the engineer understood the requirements, there was the early feedback, and then this meant that there were early fixes. And this really meant that during the group testing day, we didn't have any blocker issues as such because we were continuously testing throughout our process. So the core problem that I found was the lack of a quality mindset and thinking of our users at every single step. For QAs, this comes natural because we have so many years of experience. This is our core job, and that's what we are meant to do. But for a developer or a product manager, this was not really the most immediate thing. From a product perspective, PMs do have that superpower of thinking about the product. The product thinking is present, and a mindset really to deliver the best experience for our users. But to bring all of them together, we needed to have like a foundational solution which brings everyone to the same space. So this was mainly done to start instilling like guided thinking with the squads to build this mindset step by step, because it's not really a set of tools. It's not really something that you can find on Stack Overflow, right? This is something that is a shift in your mindset, a shift in your thinking, that you're telling the entire team to think as you would and to consider quality at every single step. Because I realized that we always say that we need to think of quality, but we never really did anything to help our users, our teams, engineering and product, to really think in the way that we do. And thus, going into the output of the continuous quality framework. So it was basically a loop of brainstorming, pair testing, group testing, and then releasing. So, what was the outcome of this session, you would ask? And now I will share the real slides on that. So as a result of doing this for 3 months with every single squad that I was a part of, the number of bugs was reduced by 80%. One of the squads was able to release with no reported blocker or major issues and no incidents for 3 continuous months. Whoever is in like an organization with mobile release, you know that that's a big milestone. And the framework was then adopted by many other squads and is still in use till date. So basically, this was super effective. People started to use it, but it came with consistency. But dedicating that 2 hours of time, like 45 minutes on a group testing session and an hour to test together as a team, really started bringing a shift into the way engineers started to approach their work, the way PMs started to approach development, and in turn, we were able to go live and reduce the release cycle times as well as an output. So it's been a little bit of a chaotic session, I would say. But if you guys have any questions, I'm open to taking them now. And in the slides which will be shared, you will also have like three articles that I've written on quality. The first one is introducing the framework, and the next one really looks to dive deep into the process of the way that it's done and some tips and tricks that you guys can really use to introduce this framework to your teams. Any questions? You guys can also unmute and ask a question if you have, or put them in the chat. All right, if not, I will walk you guys through what this brainstorming template looks like. Let me quickly share. Hope you all can see the Miro board. All right, so this template basically is what's in the head of a QA when they start to think of use cases. So one of the ways that we write use cases is that, or at least that I used to write use cases, was that I used to ask a lot of questions around what is the main job. In case of a positive case, I would ask like, what is the main job that the feature is supposed to do? What is the acceptance criteria? Why are we building this? So all of these questions is what I would ask when I'm building a positive case. So in this template, you will see as per each use case type, there are a certain set of questions which can be asked by the teams. And there is one facilitator who facilitates this session. And over here, we also have the definition of what's a P0, what's a P1, what's a P3, and how the teams can categorize their test cases. In the beginning, this was mostly like a guided session where I would guide the teams to think about it. So essentially, I'm not writing these test cases. It would be the engineers who would write these test cases. But the only part where I would jump in would be in the case of where they had to verify if it was actually a P0 or a P1, or if they were writing in the correct ways. And as you see, it takes care of a lot of things from positive, negative, integration, design and content, compatibility, and we also verify a lot of tracking in our case. So I also try to add the tracking audit cases that you could have. And then we use this template to kind of, again, guide our group testing sessions and go in there with that. All right, so that's what the template is about. The links are available in the slides, which I believe will be shared. If not, you can also go to my Substack and you will find the same links and the same templates available for everyone to use, and try it out with your teams and see if you're able to bring a change, a shift in the mindset of our users. That's all from my side for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.